Okay. Nobody has turned up now. It's only me and you. So how long do we wait? Okay. Oh, okay, okay. I don't see anybody, so I was wondering if it is just. Oh, I. Okay, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, right, right. So good afternoon, everybody. Whoever is has joined. There is any question or anything you can ask. Please go ahead. There are questions or clarifications that you might need, or anything. You just need to talk. I'm here to listen. Can see some people there. Sunita Das, Sudarshan, Paramita Deb. Are there any studies on bilingualism cognition in the Indian context? So please discuss about that. Yes, there are. I, for one, my group is working on that. We are looking at bilingual language processing. By the way, which module have you completed till now? That a lot will depend on that. I am working on that, and there are a couple of other researchers in Indian context, not too many people. In terms of experimental work, not too many people. Only a couple of labs are working. So primarily, most of the work look at bilingualism, Hindi English kind of bilingualism, where you have English as the second language, and try to replicate the well-known findings that have been reported by the earlier previous researchers. So by and large, we do see a lot of similarity in terms of findings. But my work, I specifically focus on, my students specifically focus on bilingualism, where both languages are Indian, as in, indigenous. So it can be Assamese, Bengali bilinguals, or Naga Manipuri bilinguals, like that, no English. Two regional languages, two local languages, where both languages are represented by the communities nearby. So when you talk about, we have talked about biculturalism. So Hindi English bilinguals are not bicultural, but if we look at Bangla Assamese bilinguals here, or in Manipur there are some Naga groups, so their Naga Manipuri bilingualism will be bicultural. So specifically, my specific interest in our group of research is bicultural bilingualism. We look at how the nuances of intercultural communication, intercultural relationship, and language go hand in hand. So yes, we are working on that. You can check out our webpage, my group webpage. It was stuck for some time because Google was doing something funny, but I hope it is up again. So I keep updating on our work, my students' work. And also can also directly reach out to me if you are interested to know more. I can guide you to some papers of ours. Final exam will be essay or multiple choice. I cannot tell you that, but don't worry, you will be doing well. Don't worry about it. We welcome people to join for any projects. Yes, we are open for both internships and projects. I'll be running a couple of projects on bilingualism soon, but you are always welcome to visit IIT Guwahati as an intern. There are due processes you need to follow. Just keep checking the details on the IIT, our department page. You will get the details as to how to apply and all of that. So yes, we are open for interns. You can bring in new insights and you can learn from us what we do. Yes, all of that. If any other question? Don't see any other. Could you please elaborate a little bit on your findings? What are the major differences between Anglophone? Yeah. Okay, so as I was saying about the bicultural bilinguals, for example, there is this idea about cognitive control, which we have talked about in this course. So in terms of cognitive control, it is one of the parameters, one of the motivating factors that have been put forward is the language switching context, right? So in any bilingual society, you have language switching, code mixing, code switching. Now we have also talked about adaptive control hypothesis, the theoretical position that takes this connection very seriously and gives a theory that depending on the kind of language switching scenario, your control mechanisms could be different. Cognitive control mechanisms could be different. So that is one strand of research that we are following here, because as I said, bicultural bilingualism is more common in India than any other type. Specifically, if you are not taking languages like English, for example. So because we cannot, the English culture is not around us in that sense. So we see a lot of, in fact, our findings contradict most of the major findings in this field. And since so we are discussing with the other our colleagues abroad as to how to interpret this, because the moment, for example, a very well-known study is on Chinese English bilinguals is that if you are it's a language production study, and then if it is if there is a mismatch cue, so you see a Chinese face and you have to use English language, your production in Chinese will get seriously affected. Similarly, your production language is English, but you are given a Chinese cue in between, priming with a Chinese cue, that will also severely impact your English output, so in L2 output. So similar work on similar lines in Indian, when we did the same thing with populations here, couple of bilingual groups, we found absolutely no impact whatsoever of the mismatch condition. So we carried it out on Naga Manipuri bilinguals, on two different Naga languages, because Nagaland, though the name is Nagaland, there is no such one Naga language as such. There are 16 different languages. I mean, different language, not dialects. They're different languages. So, and each of those groups have also very strong identity markers. So the group identity is very strong. However, it's also possible for people to be bilingual. So we took one such two such bilingual group. One is Ao, the other is Sangtam. So there are places in Nagaland where Ao Sangtam groups live side by side. They have lived side by side for we don't know how long. They really go back in a long time. And the language, the hierarchically speaking, the status of both languages are similar. There is no strong Hindi English sort of a hierarchy. Both languages are used in all domains of usage, school, this, that, and the society. There is no strong, powerful and powerless language. Here we saw that there is no impact of mismatch at all. So that means the difference that exists is not because of the surface structure difference, Hindi English. It's not a language difference or a cultural difference. It's something higher. We are still yet to put a finger on what is happening, but the theory that we are trying to give is that because all these are bicultural bilinguals, hence, and also in India, everybody knows Jugaad. So the scientifically speaking, the scientific way of looking at Jugaad is we are so used to multiplicity of everything, group, language, identity, you name it, culture, food. So that has stopped being a salient cue for us until and unless we want to make it a salient cue. So hence, we will not ever see Chinese English sort of findings replicated in Indian languages if you are looking at bicultural bilinguals. So this is one domain. So yes, it's a vast area of research, and we are doing multiple strands of this research, looking at it from various angles. Different students, student of mine is looking at a different angle of this. So do visit IIT Guwahati sometime. We will be able to describe things in a more detailed way. Successful publication is very difficult. That's not only in my field, that's in any field where you want to publish in the top tier journal. It will take you a long time. It's not easy. It's not at all easy until and unless, it's very difficult. Because initially, and it is more difficult if you have results that are very different. So you need a lot of, you better do a very good work, as simple as that. And it's a lengthy process. Many years of work might result in one good paper in a top tier journal. That is how difficult it is. I think more people prefer YouTube than Teams. Though I find Teams so much easier. Oh, suddenly it's back. Give me 1 second. Let me just understand the culture. Yes, that is done. Does that mean learning the culture adds to the cognitive understanding? Yes, it does. Sudarshanji, yes, learning the culture, of course, does add, because language, as we have seen, is not it doesn't work in a vacuum, right? So it needs the cultural background is something that makes it variable. People are different at that level. That is why it's interesting actually to see how far the human cognition, in fact, that is one of the biggest debates in cognitive science, how far it is universal and where all do we find differences, and if those differences are adequately important. Because the primary premise in cognitive science has for a long time been universal as in all humans think similarly at a deeper level. Forget about the surface structure, small things. But at a deeper level, human cognition is to a large extent universal. However, we do still see a lot of differences. So what is the connection? Where does it stop being universal and where does it become relative? Those questions need deeper understanding, and hence, yes, learning a different culture, different language, all of that adds to the cognition at a very basic level. Yes. Video is back on. Yes. Some of the key ideas regarding Berlin cognition research in India. We are right now working at looking at, as I said, bicultural bilingualism, because countries like India gives you enormous opportunity to study this language, culture, and cognition connection, and bilingualism, of course, because we are largely a country of people who speak more than one language. So bilingualism, multilingualism is a given in this society, and that interacts in a very interesting way. So we have both non-bicultural bilingualism and bicultural bilingualism. You go to cities, people speaking in English as their second language, so that bilingualism is of one type, qualitatively speaking. and you have the local bilingualism into local languages. So we have all these permutations and combinations right there, right in front of us. So India gives us a lot of opportunities to look at these nuances in cognition, in human cognition. You can take any starting point. It could be language, it could be cultural understanding or whatever, bilingualism. It does give us a lot of opportunities to work on. So we are working on this. We are working on heritage languages. We are working on bicultural bilingualism. We are working on primarily focusing on the Indian type of bilingualism, as we call it. So it is very different from the bilingualism research findings that you get from the Western world, because Western world still very recently have been monolingual. The official language policy is monolingual. In India, official language policy is multilingual. That goes a long way in in the way we look at language, the population, the how things are on the ground, and that gives us enormous opportunity to understand human mind itself. I mean, we are not like uh, it's a open playground. You can pick up any question and try to just go out in the open, go out in the society and see how things, provided of course it all it's not as simple as I'm speaking about it. You need very fine tuned, very well thought out experimental paradigms to work on that, in order to just because you might find some difference on the surface doesn't mean you have got an eureka moment. So you have to really be careful. It's a very difficult terrain. So you need to design your experiments very carefully. You need to be very thorough about how you analyze the data, because in experimental work what happens often, there are controversies about the data. The same data can be interpreted differently by different groups of researchers. Today we have very high-end statistical packages that will give you all kinds of output, but how you interpret is where the human mind comes in, and interpretation obviously then it can take different turns. So yes, keeping all of that in mind, all I can say is there is a lot of opportunities to look at, lot of interesting scenario that Indian societies like India can throw up, and that can actually help us understand these things in detail. But yes, it's a 10-20 years project. In experimental work, what happens, you need to basically be focusing on one research question from as many angles as possible. You try out different variables, you look at the things from different angles, and finally you might have found something very new and very interesting. So it's a long project. We are at it. There are many other groups who are also working. But yes, it's a rewarding discipline because ultimately you get to uh, in fact visualize how the human mind is really working, even if it is on a tiny topic, even if it is finding out that owls don't really care if a sanctum face is looking at them from the computer screen, or an owl face. They just do whatever task has been given to them, which means we can feel good about being better better problem solvers than Chinese. But that is only at the surface. I mean, we find there are differences, but at the same time, is that difference important enough in a scientific sense? Is there more to it? Is it just because the society that we are given, we are living in, because we need to deal with diversity at every given point of time? Maybe it just doesn't remain a salient cue. But does it end there? So there are many questions that are there. So starting from bilingualism, starting from language processing, you can actually travel a lot and end up in understanding a tiny, little bit of part, very small part of human cognition. So that's what we are doing. Many people are doing. And I would encourage, if anybody is interested, if anyone wants to pursue research in this area, to take it up. It's something. It's a kind of field that it is scientific as well as it keeps you connected to the real society, real life. So it's not a science where you don't connect to the world. It is it's a science that where you can situate yourself in different kinds of human conditions and then also look at it objectively. That is the beauty of this field. That's the beauty of language, I would say. So I would encourage anybody who is interested to look up these different topics. And of course, you are all free to contact me on my email. Huh. Yes, please. Okay, so we log out. What do we do? Okay, so I do I have to do anything in the YouTube thing? No, na? I just switch it off. Okay, so I'm logging out from the Teams meeting. Okay, thank you so much, Quinn. Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye.